lots of lessons to learn from that period and the role this man played. And of course, one would look at it that we have some similar challenges presently compared to what we had at that time. What would you say are some of those lessons and what we could actually take away from some of the way those situations were handled at the present time?
They're very, very clear. I mean, we have decoupled from the days of Gowon as a military head of state, and unfortunately, what should have been better than a military regime called a democratic dispensation. And that decoupling happened because of probably one index: the management of the words of our mouth. And that was why I said you could see wisdom, you could see elder statesmanship in the words of his mouth. Every time General Gowon or Daddy Gowon speaks, it will be very clear to you that he is not in support of Party A or Party B. He is in support of Nigeria. Gowon realizes the effect of the use of the words or the tongue. Gowon then realized that the power of life and death lies in the words that comes out of anybody's mouth. And that was why he could use the word no victor, no vanquish, which you can't contest today. Whether it was followed or not, he used it correctly. He came up with the 3 R's. He also realized that words can turn a friend into an enemy depending on how you use it. He also realized that words can turn a bitter enemy into a friend. I want to believe that Gowon then also realized that the venom of bitter words and the pains that will come if you don't use your words properly, will be more venomous than the venom of a viper. Take that and superimpose it on how politicians throw banters at themselves. And it will be very clear to you that we have completely separated from the way his generation, I don't want to say his regime, his generation managed the use of their words. And today, in fact, even one of the gladiators then, because you can't talk about Gowon without talking about Ojukwu, whom I respected then, though I knew him about in history, but I still respected I respect today even in death. Even Ojukwu minded the way he chose and used his words. Go back and check their broadcast. So on that alone, they have decoupled completely from the current generation.
Are you saying that the lot of this day that we have politicians who don't use words maturely?
Yes, the politicians today, unfortunately, are very, very careless with that weapon of life and death. In fact, we need to understand that there is a big difference between politics and politicians. And I can tell you, to a reasonable extent, the politics in Nigeria today is clumsy. Most politicians in Nigeria today are vindictive. We basically practice the politics of exclusion, right? Emasculation and vengeance. And that is the reason why you see all kinds of desperation. Because if my camp as politics, Party A, has pundits, has great people, and your party has pundits and great people, and we practice the politics of total inclusion, you won't be seeing the throwing of banters, the do-or-die approaches.
Besides leading the country through a civil war and ensuring that the nation stays at one, what else could be, one can remember General Gowon's as its most significant legacy?
Well, his legacy remained then and is still today. I mean, based on what we see, I think then they work collectively. I remember one time when General Alani Akirinade said, in the days of, was it Supreme Military Council or whatever, he said in those days they used to even throw chairs at themselves, but you never saw a sign of anything outside. Every time they come, they will sit down like this. The generals or the colonels or the brigadiers will sit down like this, and they will address the nation in national interest. What we are seeing with a system, fortunately or unfortunately, which is supposed to be called democratic dispensation, which should help us, we see a situation where we can come from the same family, but just because we are in different parties, I will wish that you fail while I make it. We see situations where people come with all kinds of manifestos without thinking through. It is in today's, and that's why I said the politics is clumsy. It is in today's politics that somebody will tell you that I will construct a 20-kilometer road. I will construct 20 feeder roads. Meanwhile, this person talking to you does not know anything about soil chemistry, does not know anything about compactment, does not probably know how much a trailer load of laterite costs, and he will just tell you that. Does not even know the IGR. Without minding it,
without looking at it in the implications.
Exactly, these are the problems. And immediately that person gets into power, the next thing is to do everything humanly possible to throw away the original manifesto and make sure nobody talks about it.
We are at a point in time, that a lot of things have come to threaten the unity of this country. And I remember that the president said when the delegates assembled for the national conference that one area nobody can go is the visibility of Nigeria. And go on with one nation. That's a very popular acronym.
Correct.
What lesson can we learn about keeping this nation together from that moment, go on with one nation, and the fact that what we need most at this point in time is perhaps how we can stay together when we see the issue of terrorism in the Northeast and some issues across the country?
1,001 lessons are there to be appreciated. When you look at the time of Gowon, when he came up with the go on with one nation or go on with one Nigeria compared to today. When you talk about balkanization of the country, or if you want to do something, first of all, just check, are there under information you can use as correlating information, right? When you want to talk about crusades and you want to embark on crusade, check if something has happened in history that you are going to use, superimpose and guide yourself. Sometimes it's not good to mention names, but in situations like this, mention name, we can mention names. Look at the separation or the cessation